Where's my food? I've been waiting for 25 minutes. The entire restaurant in Cebu City fell silent. Every head turned toward the red-faced British man standing at his table, finger jabbing the air, voice echoing off the walls. This is unacceptable. In London, I'd have my meal in 10 minutes. What kind of third-world service is this? The young Filipino waitress stood frozen, tears forming in her eyes. The manager rushed over, apologizing profusely. Other diners stared in disbelief. But here's what nobody in that restaurant could have predicted. 72 hours later, this same man would be on his knees in the wreckage of a typhoon, sobbing in the arms of the very people he had just insulted. He would call them heroes. He would beg for their forgiveness. What could possibly happen to transform someone so completely in just 3 days? This is the true story of Marcus Thompson and how a disaster revealed who the real professionals actually were. Marcus Thompson was everything you'd expect from a high-powered London executive. 42 years old, expensive suits, luxury watch, first-class everything. He was vice president of operations for a multinational consulting firm, and he made sure everyone knew it. Marcus had come to Cebu for a 3-day business conference on operational efficiency. The irony of what was about to happen would not be lost on him later. After the conference ended, he decided to extend his stay for a week. A vacation, he told his assistant James, who had traveled with him. Let's see what this place has to offer. What it offered, according to Marcus, was frustration. From the moment he arrived, nothing met his standards. The hotel check-in took 15 minutes instead of 5. The taxi driver didn't know the fastest route. The restaurant, that restaurant where everything exploded, took too long to serve his kinalaw and grilled puset. James, I don't understand, Marcus would say, shaking his head. How do people function here? Everything moves at half speed. The service is unprofessional. Don't they understand time is money? James, who was Filipino-British and had been quietly embarrassed by his boss's behavior all week, tried to explain. Sir, maybe they're just what? Content with mediocrity? Marcus interrupted. That's exactly the problem. The restaurant incident had been the worst. It was a beautiful seaside place called Sugbo Grill, known locally for fresh seafood and warm hospitality. The manager, a kind-faced man named Benjamin, everyone called him Kuya Ben, ran it with his family. That evening, Marcus had ordered, checked his watch, and waited. And waited. When the food finally arrived, perfectly grilled, beautifully presented, Marcus exploded. 25 minutes. Do you know how many business decisions I could have made in that time? Kuya Ben approached carefully. Sir, I sincerely apologize. We grill everything fresh to order, and we had several. I don't want excuses. I want efficiency. This is why your country can't compete globally. No sense of urgency, no professionalism. The young waitress, her name was Maricel, and she was working 2 jobs to support her family, stood trembling. Several local diners looked angry now, but they held their tongues. Respeto, respect for elders, even rude ones. James pulled at Marcus's sleeve. Sir, please, let's just... But Marcus wasn't done. He left a scathing review online, paid his bill with dramatic flair, and stormed out. Find me a better restaurant tomorrow, James, one that actually values customer service. If Marcus had paid attention that night, he would have noticed the weather reports playing on the restaurant's TV. He would have heard the warnings. He would have seen the concern on the locals' faces. Typhoon Odette was coming, and it was going to be catastrophic. The next morning, December 15th, the hotel staff were unusually serious. Sir Thompson, the front desk manager said, we're recommending all guests evacuate to the designated shelter. Typhoon Odette has intensified to a Category 5. It will make landfall tonight. Marcus waved him off. I've been through storms before. I'm sure it's just heavy rain. I paid for this suite, and I'm staying. Sir, please understand, this is very dangerous. The provincial government has issued... I understand perfectly. I'm staying. James packed his bags. Marcus, I'm going to the evacuation center. Please, come with me. My cousins here are terrified. This isn't a normal storm. You go ahead, Marcus said dismissively. I have work to do anyway. Conference calls with London. I'm not letting some tropical weather disrupt my schedule. By late afternoon, the sky had turned an ominous gray-green. Wind was picking up, bending palm trees at unnatural angles. The streets, usually busy, were nearly empty. Everyone had evacuated. Everyone except Marcus. He stood at his 8th-floor window with a glass of scotch, watching the ocean churn. Overreaction, he muttered. Typical. At 8:47 p.m., Typhoon Odette made landfall. The first gust hit the building like a freight train. Marcus dropped his glass. The entire structure shuddered. Within minutes, the wind was roaring so loud he couldn't hear himself think. Rain wasn't falling. It was flying horizontally, battering the windows with terrifying force. Then the power went out. Complete darkness. Marcus grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight. His hands were shaking now. The building was swaying. Actually swaying. Crack. The sound of breaking glass somewhere above him. Then screaming wind through the corridors. Crash. His own window spiderwebbed with cracks. Water started seeping through the seals. For the first time in his adult life, Marcus Thompson felt genuine terror. He ran to the bathroom, the only room without windows, and huddled in the bathtub, clutching his phone. But the battery was at 12%, no way to charge it. The hotel's backup generators had failed. The typhoon raged all night. Marcus prayed. This man who had complained about 25-minute wait times was now praying just to survive until morning. The building groaned and creaked. Water was flooding in from somewhere. He could hear debris smashing against the structure, glass breaking, metal tearing. Was this how he would die? Alone in a bathtub in the Philippines, having spent his last days complaining about service speed? The irony was crushing. Dawn came slowly. The wind had decreased from catastrophic to merely dangerous. Marcus, soaking wet and shivering despite the tropical heat, emerged from the bathroom. The hallway was destroyed, windows blown out, debris everywhere, water ankle-deep in some areas. He made his way down the emergency stairs. The elevators were dead, and out into the street. Nothing could have prepared him for what he saw. Cebu City looked like a war zone. Trees uprooted and lying across roads, buildings with roofs torn clean off, cars flipped over, debris scattered everywhere, sheets of metal roofing, splintered wood, personal belongings scattered like confetti, no power, no cell signal, no internet. Marcus walked through the devastation in a daze, his expensive leather shoes, now ruined, crunched over broken glass. People were emerging from shelters, some crying, some silent with shock. And Marcus was utterly, completely helpless. His phone was dead. He had no way to contact James, the embassy, anyone. He had some cash, but nowhere to spend it. The stores were destroyed. He was hungry, thirsty, and for the first time in his privileged life, he understood what vulnerability actually meant. He walked for an hour, maybe more, through the wreckage, looking for, what? Help? Food? Shelter? Then he saw it. Sugbo Grill, or what was left of it. The beautiful seaside restaurant where he'd had his meltdown 2 nights ago was devastated. The roof was partially collapsed, tables and chairs scattered across the beach, the kitchen area exposed to the elements. And standing in the middle of it all, directing a group of people, was Kuya Ben. Marcus froze. Kuya Ben looked up, saw Marcus, and for a long moment their eyes met. Marcus wanted to run. Shame, hot and heavy, flooded through him. This man whose livelihood he was staring at in ruins, whose staff he had berated. Kuya Ben walked toward him. Marcus braced himself. He deserved whatever was coming. But instead of anger, Kuya Ben's face showed concern. "Sir Marcus, you're alive. Salamat sa Diyos." He grabbed Marcus's shoulders, checking him for injuries. "Are you hurt? Do you need water?" Marcus couldn't speak. His throat was tight. "Come," Kuya Ben said gently. "The evacuation center is this way. We have food, water. You need to rest." I don't understand," Marcus finally managed. "Your restaurant is destroyed. Why are you helping me?" Kuya Ben smiled, that same patient smile from 2 nights ago. Sir, that's just what we do. Come na, you look terrible. The evacuation center was a large concrete building, a school, packed with hundreds of people. Despite the crowding, despite the limited resources, despite the disaster they'd all just survived, there was an atmosphere of organized calm. Kuya Ben led Marcus inside. "Everyone, we have another survivor," he announced. "Let's make room." Immediately, people shifted, creating space. A woman, Marcus recognized her from the restaurant, she'd been cooking that night, appeared with a bottle of water and a plate of rice and canned sardines. "Eat, sir," she said kindly. "You must be starving." Marcus took the food with shaking hands. Thank you. Thank you." As he ate, and that simple meal tasted better than any five-star dinner he'd ever had, he looked around in amazement. This was a community in action. In one corner, Kuya Ben and several others were organizing supply distribution. In another, teachers were keeping children calm with games and songs. Medical volunteers were treating injuries. People were sharing their limited belongings without hesitation. And slowly, Marcus began to recognize faces. There was Marcel, the young waitress he'd yelled at. She was now coordinating water distribution, moving efficiently between families, making sure elderly people got priority. There was the hotel front desk manager who'd tried to warn him. He was helping organize communication efforts, taking down names of people who needed to contact relatives. There was a fisherman Marcus had complained to about slow boat service 3 days ago. He was now organizing rescue parties to search for people still trapped in damaged buildings. These slow, unprofessional people were running a disaster response operation with more efficiency and heart than Marcus had ever seen in any corporate crisis management. "Sir Marcus!" He turned. It was James pushing through the crowd. They embraced. "Thank God you're alive," James said. "I tried to find you, but I was an idiot," Marcus said. "You tried to warn me." "What matters is you're safe." James looked around. "Kuya Ben found you?" "Yes. After everything I said to him, he helped me." James nodded. "That's who he is. That's who they are." The days that followed were unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. With no power, no internet, and limited supplies, life slowed to a crawl. But for the first time, Marcus understood that slow didn't mean inefficient. He watched Kuya Ben and his restaurant crew, their livelihood destroyed, cook meals for hundreds of people using damaged equipment and limited ingredients. They worked from dawn until midnight. The 25-minute wait Marcus had complained about? Now he understood. Kuya Ben's team had been preparing each dish with care because they took pride in their work. The slow service was actually attention to detail, care for quality, respect for the food and the customer. Marcus volunteered to help. He was terrible at it. "No, sir, you need to cut the vegetables smaller," a grandmother gently corrected him. She was at least 70, had lost her home, and was still teaching impatiently. "Like this?" Marcus asked, genuinely trying. "Better, you're learning." She patted his hand. He helped clear debris. He distributed water. He learned Tagalog phrases. "Salamat. Kumusta ka? Tuloy po kayo." One afternoon, he was helping distribute crackers to children. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, looked at the half packet she received, then broke it in half again. "Why did you do that?" Marcus asked gently. "For you, Kuya," she said, using the term of respect for an older male. "You look hungry too." This child, who had lost everything, was sharing with him. Marcus felt something break inside his chest. That evening, he found Marcel, the waitress. She was taking a rare break, sitting on a curb. "Marcel," he said quietly, sitting nearby. "May I talk to you?" She looked surprised, but nodded. "I want to apologize. The other night at the restaurant, I was cruel. I was wrong. I'm so sorry." Maricel's eyes welled up. "Sir, it's okay." "No, it's not okay. I yelled at you for doing your job. I called you unprofessional. But these past few days, watching you work, Watching all of you, his voice broke. You're the most professional people I've ever met. You're heroes. A tear ran down Maricel's cheek. Sir, I just wanted you to know. That night, I was slow because I was tired. I work at the restaurant, then I work night shift at a call center to support my family. Sometimes I make mistakes when I'm tired, but we try our best. Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. This young woman, working 2 jobs, exhausted, still serving with a smile, and he'd screamed at her for a 25-minute wait. I'm ashamed, he whispered. Don't be, sir. You didn't know. Now you do. Simple wisdom from a 23-year-old. 1 week after the typhoon, Marcus learned the full truth. He was helping Kuya Ben sort through the restaurant wreckage, trying to salvage what they could. Kuya Ben, Marcus said carefully, can I ask, where are you staying now? At the evacuation center, same as you. But don't you have a home? Kuya Ben's smile faltered for just a moment. I did. It was completely destroyed, but at least my family is safe. That's what matters. Marcus stopped working. Your home is gone? Yes, sir. And yet you're here every day, helping others, cooking for people, organizing supplies. Why aren't you... He didn't know how to finish. Why aren't I taking care of myself first? Kuya Ben asked. Yes. Kuya Ben set down the damaged chair he was holding. Sir Marcus, can I tell you about Bayanihan? It's a Filipino word. It means communal unity, working together. In the old days, when someone needed to move their house, the whole village would literally carry it together to the new location. He gestured around them. This is Bayanihan. My house is gone, yes, but my neighbor needs food. That child needs water. That elderly woman needs medicine. How can I focus only on my loss when we're all in this together? But you've lost everything, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. No, sir, I've lost things. I haven't lost what matters. My family, my community, my purpose. That did it. Marcus broke down completely. All the stress, fear, shame, and revelation of the past week came flooding out. He sank to his knees in the debris and sobbed. Kuya Ben knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. I was so wrong, Marcus gasped between sobs. I thought you were slow. I thought you were unprofessional. I thought... He looked up at Kuya Ben. You're not slow. You're strong. You're not unprofessional. You're heroes. All of you. And I was just a privileged, arrogant fool who couldn't see it. You see it now, Kuya Ben said gently. That's what matters. How can you forgive me? After what I said? After how I treated your staff? Kuya Ben smiled. Sir, we don't do this for thanks or recognition. We do it because we're family, all of us, even you, especially now. You're part of this community now. Marcus looked around through tear-blurred eyes, at the destroyed buildings, at the people working together to rebuild, at the faces that had shown him nothing but kindness despite his behavior. I don't deserve this, he whispered. None of us deserve the typhoon either, Kuya Ben said. But here we are. So we help each other. That's what family does. For the first time in his 42 years, Marcus Thompson understood what community actually meant. 1 month later, Marcus was still in the Philippines. He'd called his company, taken emergency leave, and stayed. Not in a hotel this time. Hotels were still damaged, but with James's extended family in a neighboring barangay. Every morning, he woke at dawn and went to help rebuild Sugbo Grill. The arrogant executive who'd complained about slow service was now hammering nails, mixing cement, painting walls. His expensive suits were back in London. Now he wore old shirts and cargo pants, both stained with paint and sweat. Marcus, the cement is too watery, Kuya Ben called out, but he was smiling. How do you tell? Marcus asked, genuinely confused. An elderly man working beside him laughed. Like this, sir. You learn by doing. Slowly. Marcus grinned. Slowly. Got it. He'd learned so much in that month. He learned that Filipino time wasn't about being late. It was about prioritizing relationships over rigid schedules. He learned that the slow pace of service was actually taking time to do things right, to connect with customers, to maintain dignity in work. He learned words beyond basic Tagalog. Kapwa, shared inner self, the recognition that we're all fundamentally connected. Pakikasama, getting along with others. Utang na loob, debt of gratitude. Most importantly, he learned that everything he'd been measuring in his corporate life, efficiency, speed, productivity, meant nothing if you lost your humanity in the process. Marcus also did something he'd never done before. He used his privilege for good. He created a fundraising campaign through his London network. Within 2 weeks, he'd raised £50,000 for the Cebu recovery effort. He directed funds specifically to local businesses like Sugbo Grill, to families who'd lost homes, to the schools serving as evacuation centers. His company was shocked. His colleagues were confused. But Marcus didn't care what they thought anymore. One evening, as the sun set over the partially rebuilt restaurant, Kuya Ben sat beside Marcus on the new deck they'd constructed. "You know, sir, you don't have to keep helping. You've done so much already." Marcus shook his head. "I need to be here. This place, these people, you saved my life. Not just from the typhoon, from myself. You were never a bad person, sir. Just a lost one." "I thought I had everything figured out," Marcus said. "Success, career, efficiency. But I was empty. Angry at the world without even knowing why." He looked at Kuya Ben. "You showed me what actually matters." "We didn't show you anything," Kuya Ben said. "We just lived our lives. You were the one who chose to see." Maricel came out with plates of food. "Dinner is ready. Fresh lumpia and adobo." "Thank you, Maricel," Marcus said in Tagalog. "This looks wonderful." She beamed. "Your Tagalog is getting better, Kuya Marcus." Kuya Marcus, not sir anymore. He'd earned the respectful term for family. As they ate together, the entire restaurant crew, volunteers, and Marcus, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt home. Today, 2 years later, Marcus Thompson's life looks completely different. He still works for his London firm, but he negotiated a hybrid arrangement. He spends 6 months in London, 6 months in the Philippines. His company, seeing his transformation and the connections he'd built, actually expanded their operations in Southeast Asia with Marcus leading the initiative. But the real work happens during his Philippine months. He invested in Sugbo Grill, becoming a silent partner. Not for profit, his contract explicitly states all earnings stay with Kuya Ben's family, but to ensure it could rebuild bigger and better. The restaurant now includes a training program for young Filipinos interested in hospitality. Marcus mentors students at local universities, teaching business skills but with a completely different philosophy than he'd once held. "Speed isn't everything," he tells them. "In my old life, I thought fast meant better. I was measuring the wrong things. Excellence takes time. Relationships take time. Building something meaningful takes time." He visits the evacuation center, now back to being a school, and sponsors scholarships for students whose families were affected by the typhoon. Maricel is one of them. She's studying hospitality management. Every December 15th, the anniversary of Typhoon Odette, Marcus returns to Cebu. He joins the memorial service, helps with continued rebuilding efforts, and spends time with the community that changed his life. This year, at the memorial, he stood to speak. "2 years ago, I came to this city as a stranger. Worse, I came as someone who looked down on you. I complained about your service. I called you slow. I called you unprofessional." The crowd was silent, listening. "I was wrong about everything. When the typhoon hit, when I was at my most helpless, you didn't turn me away. You didn't remind me of my cruelty. You just helped. You showed me what real strength looks like, what real professionalism looks like." His voice broke slightly. "You weren't slow. You were just moving at the speed of humanity, the speed that allows you to actually see people, care for people, love people. I thought fast meant better. You taught me that meaningful means better." He looked directly at Kuya Ben, who sat in the front row. "You told me once that we're all family. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. Salamat. Maraming salamat. After the service, Kuya Ben pulled Marcus aside. You know what I told you that first day after the typhoon? That you're part of the community now? I remember, Marcus said. I meant it. You're not a guest here anymore, Marcus. You're family. You're one of us. Marcus felt tears in his eyes. That means more to me than you could possibly know. I think I know, Kuya Ben said with a knowing smile. Now come, Rosa made your favorite adobo, and this time if it takes 30 minutes you won't complain, huh? Marcus laughed. I'll wait as long as it takes. Some things are worth waiting for. As they walked toward the restaurant, rebuilt, thriving, full of life, Marcus reflected on his journey. He'd come to the Philippines chasing efficiency and left understanding humanity. He'd arrived complaining about slow service and departed knowing that the best things in life can't be rushed. The real lesson wasn't about the Philippines changing him. It was about the Philippines giving him permission to see what actually mattered: family, community, connection, compassion. Marcus thought back to that terrifying night in the bathtub, certain he would die. He'd promised himself that if he survived, he'd change. He kept that promise. But the truth was, the people of Cebu, especially the ones he'd insulted, they'd changed him. Not through anger or revenge, but through radical kindness, through showing him a different way to live. Sir Marcus, a child's voice called out. It was the little girl who'd shared her crackers with him 2 years ago. She ran up and hugged him. You came back! Of course I came back, he said, hugging her tight. This is home. And it was. Have you ever misjudged someone based on your own expectations? Have you ever had an experience that completely transformed your perspective on life? Maybe you've been the tourist who complained. Maybe you've been the service worker judged unfairly. Maybe you've witnessed kindness in the middle of crisis. Share your story in the comments below. Let's build a community of people who understand that slow doesn't mean inferior. Sometimes it just means more human. If this story touched your heart, subscribe for more inspiring true stories about unexpected transformations, cultural connections, and the moments that change us forever. And remember Kuya Ben's wisdom. We're not slow. We just don't want to rush past what matters. People. Salamat. Maraming salamat for watching.